Good afternoon. My name is Martin Kimani. I'm Kenya's permanent representative to the United Nations, and I serve as the coordinator of the A3+1, who are, of course, Niger, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Tunisia, and Kenya. We wanted to make this statement to further our statement in the Security Council so that the wider public knows our position. We're very pained by the suffering experienced by our brothers and sisters in Tigray these past months. We send our condolences to all the families who have lost members to violence, including aid workers. We're very outraged and saddened by the pain of all the women and girls who have suffered sexual violence. We condemn without reservation the targeting of unarmed civilians. In doing so, we call for all parties with the means to cause harm to cease any attacks or threats to unarmed civilians. We are very concerned about the potential implications of the destruction of the bridge over the Tekezi River that connects Shire and Gonda. It is indicative of a callous attitude to the needs of civilians in crisis. We further condemn the killing of 3 staff members of Doctors Without Borders in Tigray on the 25th of June. We demand that all parties respect international law, including humanitarian principles and the moral codes that are at the core of Africa's cultures and religions. Throughout the last months, when division and violence have been experienced in Tigray, we have welcomed the government's resourcing of a significant proportion of the humanitarian needs. We again urge the international community to move with speed and scale up assistance. These efforts should be clearly and strongly supported by the Ethiopian government and all parties, with all impediments being removed. We also support the democratic aspiration of the Ethiopian people as expressed in their most recent election. We are gratified by the interim reports, especially that of the African Union Election Observer Mission, which remarked that the polls were carried out in an, I quote, orderly, peaceful, and credible manner. We hope, close quote, we hope that the election becomes the foundation of a robust national conversation on peace, cohesion, development, and the celebration of diversity and pluralism. Today, the situation in Tigray remains of concern, but there are clear opportunities for peace to emerge. We welcome the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire by the government of Ethiopia and stress that the Security Council and the international community should appreciate this announcement as an opportunity that must be capitalized on. We hope that it can be translated into a permanent, comprehensive, and lasting ceasefire in order to extend humanitarian care to every man, woman, and child who needs it in every part of Tigray. That ceasefire must be heeded and implemented if we are to implement the silencing of the guns which Africans have set out in our Agenda 2063. We therefore call on all parties in Tigray that have not pronounced themselves on the cessation of hostilities to do so without delay and to act accordingly by ceasing all armed operations. We further call for the withdrawal of any and all non-Ethiopian forces from Tigray and the immediate standing down of all militias from neighboring federal states. This silencing of the guns will allow Tigray's farmers and traders to return to their farms and shops so that they recover their livelihoods. A ceasefire by all parties will allow the deployment of the tools available in Africa's peace and security architecture to help Ethiopia be at peace with itself. The people and the government of Ethiopia appreciate the instruments of dialogue and reconciliation forged by Africans these past few decades. After all, most of the agreements that built this peace and security architecture were forged in Addis Ababa by our heads of state and government with Ethiopia's constructive involvement. One of those tools is the African Commission on Peoples and Human and People's Rights, which on June 17th launched a commission of inquiry on Tigray. In the Security Council, we commended the commission and looked forward to its thorough investigations into what has happened, and for those investigations to lead to the holding of perpetrators to account and to forging a stronger Ethiopia. We recommend the tools that Africa has built to Ethiopia to make use of, as many of us have done. Doing so will show our people and the world that we have the processes and skills that can indeed deliver African solutions to African challenges. We have today urged the Security Council to encourage and support Ethiopian solutions supported by the region, starting in the order of ceasefire, humanitarian delivery, dialogue, reconciliation, and responsibility. Now is the time for careful diplomacy, the rapid scale-up of humanitarian response, prioritizing people, appreciation of regional stability, and the curbing of misinformation and disinformation. We reaffirm our respect for and commitment to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ethiopia. We know that the people of Ethiopia have the means and the desire to attain sustained peace, nation building, and prosperity. Thank you.
Ambassador, if there is not an end to the violence and the killings and the human rights abuses, do you believe that the Security Council should then take further action?
As the A3+1, we have not made any decision on that. We are hopeful and confident that the ceasefire announced by the government of Ethiopia will be reflected by other armed actors, and that
+1. Can you tell us, would Kenya support further action in the Security Council if the violence does not stop?
Kenya is focused on encouraging Ethiopia to undertake its own national processes and to make use of the region's goodwill and hand of assistance.
Ambassador, it's Pamela Falk from CBS News. How do you see the end game, so to speak? What is the final result? When you say reconciliation, do you mean a parliament or a group, different representation with Tigray in it in the government? And what do you see in terms of an investigation into the atrocities? Are you supporting that?
Well, our statement, what our statement is trying to indicate first is to reflect that Africa has faced similar challenges in the past and has resolved them. And we observe that that resolution has always been through dialogue and a process of national reconciliation. And that is what we're calling on Ethiopia to do, using those instruments that I've just spoken about. So I think that our statement probably speaks as fully as we possibly can go at this time. Thank you.
An investigation?
As we said, we appreciated the African Commission on Peoples and Human Rights launching a commission of inquiry on Tigray. Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, I had one last question. The Undersecretary General